Hey traders, Nick here looking at BYND. Why? Because somebody in the chat room just said BYND is dead. And I was like, what's going on with BYND? So I popped in and I pulled it up and wow. So this is a daily chart, 1 year. It's already a falling knife. They reported earnings and they dropped 20%. So the earnings results were not great, but they weren't horrific. The profitability was terrible versus estimate and versus actual. But this is a growth company, so I won't penalize them 20% based on profitability. So consider the sales. It wasn't great. It beat last year by, I forget the number, I'm going to say 15%, 12 to 15% growth in sales. So that's pretty good. What's not good is that it missed the estimates, and people are so focused about the estimates. So it's not terrible because they grew sales. Imagine if they had missed sales too, like actual year over year. They grew year over year. So that's the point of companies, growing their top line so they can then work on profitability later. Okay, so regardless of the reason, they're spitting it out overnight. Don't know what they'll do by the morning, but 20% is a pretty deep hole to climb out of that. So what now? So fundamentally, up to you to do the research. So let's talk technicals and what kind of thesis would get somebody in. Let's say you've been watching the stock, you've invested in, I don't have a trade on it. I don't remember sharing a trade on it recently. I have before, and I believe we've had big wins with it, but I don't want to look it up. So I do have lines because I've answered questions sometime around here in September, I know for a fact. So I'll share the lines with you after. First things first, I can't see where it's at, so I have to zoom out. This is a daily chart, and I have to go into a wider time frame. So I'll go to 1 week, and now we have some visibility. So it closed right here. After hours, it was 76-ish, so somewhere down here. All right. So could we have foreseen this? Yes. And I'll show you my lines. I did not touch up my lines. I'm on record. You can look them up. You can ask anybody. So not to say I told you so. I didn't know it was going to do it, but I knew the levels that will cause such a debacle. So these are my actual lines. I do have a lot of lines. I don't take them off unless I need to. And at some point here, I drew a line and I said, you cannot lose this value here, because if you do, you open a trap door. Look, support zone, if lost, I stop out. Okay, love it or hate it, you have to get out. Well, it fell below, and then it spent, remember, weeks, 3 weeks trying to get back. And today's high was at the level almost to the penny. Look left, to the penny, from which it fell apart. Or the neckline it's been trying to recover. That's better phrased. And they closed here, and then now, after hours, they're down at 76 down here. So this is unfolding. Unfortunately, the measured move of this is horrendous, so I won't give it all that credit. I'm going to say that they are pricing in the breakdown from this level. So if I'm correct, this is 124, whatever the high is, 190. So let's give it $60. That's not accurate to the penny, but it's a good eyeball measure. And if I'm right about this, so 65-ish should be the measured move. I know that technicians are rolling, oh my God, where's the neckline? I don't care. It works, trust me. And let me validate this point in a second. Arguably, this was another place they needed to hold. I had a line there. I said, support zone needs to hold, else finish the drop. Which drop? This drop. So these were my notes going into today. Resistance zone, and look how the resistance zones played out well. So why does it have a chance of holding that 70 to 75 level? Why? So if I look left, all the way left, so it came out of the blocks first week, second week, and then took off to the moon. Came back crashing, and then 2 months. So every one of these is a week. Look how consolidated that action was. And where? Right around 75, plus or minus. So let's call it 75. Bounce. Come back crashing with the pandemic, where held right here, and then the whole world went to hell because we shut it all down. So I would give them credit for this. Like, this has nothing to do with Beyond Meat. This has to do with a pandemic, which hopefully we won't see for a long, long time. So this essentially was the candle bottom. This was extra juice. Went back to base. Anyway, then quick recovery to the moon, consolidated above here, which is a big problem going forward, by the way. Pay attention to that orange line right there. Came back. Now it is retesting the base, and now back into the base, 75 plus or minus. So if somebody wants to catch the falling machete into a prior bounce level that served as a bounce level twice already, and this is the third time into it, it is a viable thesis. So how do I manage the risk? First of all, I don't take the whole risk at once. If my normal trade size is $1,000, I should only take 500. And by the way, none of this is a trade alert. None of this is a trade instruction to go out and do it. This is how I would do it, and the logic behind catching this falling machete. A, I should believe in the company, and B, believe in the level, which I just shared my opinion of why there is a good, valid debate, argument to make that this is a bounce level, and what would stop me out and how I would do it. Because I don't know how big a candle is going to be tomorrow and what the margin calls are going to be, and if they're going to drive another day of selling or two, forced selling to cover the margins. They have 3 days to do that. So if I usually take $1,000 risk, I should take half of it, so I don't have to, quote, average down. If my usual order is 1,000, I should take half. This way, if it does take another drop, and that's the important piece, when that happens, if that happens, I get better visibility. Oh, okay, I was wrong the first time, now I know why, and here's why I think this solid level is going to be better or lower. Then I'll deploy the second half. This way, I didn't average down, I just took my position in 2 separate tranches. So, difference, huge difference. Because whenever I add, I'm making my problem bigger. So that would be the way, the thesis. It's falling into a prior bounce level twice. My assumption it's going to hold. So if it doesn't hold, I'm out. If it hits my stop loss pain level, X%, I'm out. So that would get me out of my thesis. If my thesis was broken, basically I'm out. So otherwise, how do you know when to get out of a trade? All right, so what if the bounce happens? If the bounce happens, I expect tremendous selling pressures around the 100. First of all, it is a century mark. It is a psychological mark. But look at all these weekly tails up here, this resistance zone. And if you ever get to this orange line, look at the volume up here. Overhead supply, that is a highly congested area. From here to here, there's going to be it's like hitting a wall. It's going to be difficult. So be realistic with the upside scenario. And if you look at it, it's like a descending trend, and it's continuing. Now it's going to maybe bounce back up. And keep in mind that as it bounces up, I expect sellers to be there from 86 to 95, heavy sellers. So be realistic with the size of the bounce. And if the bounce fixes you, I would get out. So I would use the bounces to get out with minimal losses if I took a trade for the earnings. So this is my opinion on this stock action after hours. This one is not showing me the after hours, but I just peeked and I think it was in the 76 area. So 19 to 20% down when I checked just about 5 minutes ago, or 10 minutes ago, 8 minutes ago to be exact. So valid company in my opinion. I mean, I don't like the product. I tasted it. It tasted like vitamins to me, but it's got a use case. First of all, for health reasons, some people believe it's healthier. For ecological reasons, some people are trying to eat less meat that comes from cows who destroy the ozone, or just from humanitarian reasons that you don't want to be violent to cows. It's a viable market. Nobody should be opposing it just because they love meat. But you have to show, the management has to produce a better message and maybe sell us on the idea that, hey, it's going to take us 2 years because we pivoted during the pandemic from only business to business to business to consumer because there were no restaurants open, so they couldn't sell their meat through their outlets, so they had to go directly to people. But I still don't see it on our shelves, like in my face. So, They need to do probably a better message because the results weren't that terrible. I didn't delve into them. I just read the headline. Nick signing out.